They gave me the assignment at 0600, in a tone that made it clear no one else was taking it. The lower chamber of excavation platform Kessara had been sealed for 11 days. Pressure fault in the secondary airlock had made the whole sublevel inaccessible. Too risky for the survey teams, too low priority for the senior engineers, too far outside anyone's specialty for the archaeologists, who had come across 4-star systems to study what was inside it. So it fell to me. Maren Voss, maintenance technician 3rd grade. The woman who fixed the water recyclers and did not, technically, exist in the expedition's formal personnel documentation. I took my kit and went down. The sarcophagus had been discovered 14 months prior during the platform's initial survey of the subsurface ruins beneath the Kessara basin. The site logs I had read, because I read everything, because information costs nothing, described it as a single sealed unit, roughly 4 meters in length, composed of a stone-like material that resisted every scanning instrument the expedition carried. No seams, no apparent mechanism, no response to any signal, acoustic or electromagnetic, that the researchers had attempted in 11 months of study before the airlock fault. 41 researchers. Combined, they represented something close to 900 years of formal academic training. Every one of them had stood in that chamber and attempted, their own methodical way, to make the sarcophagus do something. Every one of them had walked away with the same note. Inert, non-responsive, possibly decorative. The stairwell down to the sublevel was cold the way old things are cold, not because heat has left them, but because they have existed long enough to stop needing it. I found the pressure fault in the secondary airlock within 12 minutes. A corroded coupling seal, nothing more. I replaced it, cycled the airlock, watched the indicators climb to green, and then stood there for a moment longer than I needed to. The door to the chamber was open. I had read the site logs. I knew the protocol was to seal the area, report the fault resolved, and leave the re-entry to the survey team. I also knew the survey team would not arrive for another 6 hours, because I had looked at the scheduling board that morning and seen the gap myself. 6 hours, during which the chamber would sit exactly as it had sat for the past 14 months, and whatever was inside the sarcophagus would continue to do what it had always done. I went in. The chamber was roughly circular, maybe 30 meters across, with a ceiling that rose into shadow my helmet light could not reach. The walls were carved. Dense inscriptions floor circling in a script as none of the 41 had translated beyond the consensus that it was. Very old and very intentional. The floor was flat, smooth, and free of dust, which had struck every researcher as notable, and which found simply strange. The way an empty room at the end of a long corridor is strange. The sarcophagus sat at the center. It was larger than the logs had made it sound. 4 meters, yes, but the photographs had not communicated the weight of it. The way it occupied the room, not just physically but atmospherically, the way a stone dropped into water occupies more space than its volume would suggest. It was pale, almost white, a surface that caught my light and gave almost nothing back. No seams, no ornamentation, just form and mass. And a specific kind of silence that things accumulate over time beyond counting. I set my kit down at the perimeter of the chamber and walked toward it. I want to be precise about what I was doing, because it is easy, looking back, read intention into the action. There was no intention. I was not attempting to make contact. I was not pursuing a theory. I was a maintenance technician who had just resolved an airlock fault and had 6 hours before anyone would expect to hear from me. And there was an object in front of me that 41 people with 900 years of education between them had declared inert, and I had always found it difficult to accept that something was inert, just because the people looking at it had not found the right way to look. I walked to the sarcophagus and put my hand flat against the surface. It was warm, not temperature warm, not the warmth of retained heat or geothermal proximity. The warmth of something that has been waiting for a specific thing to arrive, and has just felt it arrive. I know how that sounds. I am telling you what it felt like exactly, and I am not apologizing for it. The chamber shifted, physically. Nothing moved, no debris fell. The inscribed walls did not shudder. But the quality of the silence changed. If you have ever been in a room with a machine that has been running so long, you stopped hearing it, and then the machine stops, You will understand what I mean. The chamber had been producing a silence of absence. Now it was producing a silence of attention. I kept my hand on the surface. I did not step back. This is the part that matters. This is the part that I have returned to in every year since, turning it over the way you turn over a stone that has cut you, not to punish yourself, but to understand the weight of it. Every researcher who had stood in that chamber had eventually stepped back. Not from cowardice, they were not cowards, any of them, but from the accumulated, reasonable, professional conviction that if something has not responded to 900 attempts, it will not respond to the 901st. That is a sensible conclusion. That is what 900 years of training produces. The ability to recognize when something has reached its limit and to stop before you waste more time on it. I did not have 900 years of training. I had a corroded coupling seal in a bag at my feet and 6 hours of empty schedule and the stubbornness of someone who has spent a career being sent into the rooms no one else wants to enter. I stayed. The surface beneath my hand began to change. Not visibly, my eyes registered nothing. But I could feel it through the glove, through the palm, the way you can feel a tide shift before the water level changes. Something was moving inside the stone that was not stone. Something that had been still for longer than the word still is adequate to describe, was beginning, with great deliberateness, to wake. The seam appeared from nowhere. One moment there was an unbroken surface. The next there was a line, hairline thin, running the full length of the sarcophagus, so precise it might have been drawn rather than opened. Pale light bled up through it, not the bright, aggressive light of a machine powering on, but the quiet light of something that has been lit for a very long time, and is simply now allowing it to be seen white, soft, deeply, thoroughly patient. The two halves separated, slowly without sound, the way ice breaks from a glacier. Not with violence, but with the inevitability of something that has been ready to move and has simply been waiting the correct moment. The interior was filled with the same pale light, sourceless and even, and within it was a form that I will not describe in detail because I do not think detail would serve anyone. It was old, it was present, and it was, in a way I felt before I understood, awake. The voice came from the light itself, from the air of the chamber, frequency so low it was less heard than felt in the bones of the chest. It was not loud. It did not need to be. Are the one who did not fall, 6 words. I have spent years with those 6 words. I have held them up to every angle of meaning I can reach, and I have not yet found the bottom of them. Not, you are special. Not, you were chosen. Not, you carry the blood of a forgotten line or the mark of a sealed covenant. Nothing that required me to be more than I was. You did not fall. 6 words. We watched all of them, and they all stopped. They stopped because stopping is reasonable. They stopped because the weight of what was not responding was greater than the weight of their persistence. And you, maintenance technician, 3rd grade, the woman no one put on the formal documentation, you did not stop. I stood there with my hand on the open edge of the sarcophagus and the pale light on my face, and I did not feel chosen. I felt recognized. Those are not the same thing. I have thought about what I would say to the 41 researchers if I ever had the chance. I think I would say only that they were right to stop. That persistence without reason is not a virtue. That I had no reason either. Only the particular shape of a person who has spent her whole life entering the rooms that other people have written off. Maybe that was reason enough. Maybe that is all it ever needed to be. The number is formally documented now. There are new teams, new protocols, a small city of prefabricated research stations ringing the Kessara basin. My name appears in the record, accurate for once, and in the margins of the initial field report someone wrote, next to my account simply, Teeks, she stayed. They meant it as a summary. I carry it as the only commendation that has ever meant anything. You are the one who did not fall. I stayed. And the oldest thing in the basin opened its eyes and said, yes, that is the one.